every organ in the human body, bar none, is capable of stopping disease, healing the disease that's present, and reversing any damage that's already been done. Pancreatic tissue, heart tissue, brain tissue, spinal cord tissue, if they are given the right environment. And this is the key. Now, the environment might be the external environment, but rarely is it the external environment. More often than not, it's the internal environment. Certainly nutrition is part of that. But emotion, the power of human emotion to direct the energy in our bodies through all those 50 trillion cells, has been sidelined by science. The scientists tell us we're about 50 trillion or so cells. Every one of those cells has an electrical potential, 0.07 volts. You multiply that by 50 trillion, and it's over 3 billion volts of electrical potential in our cells. Every cell is a transistor. It massages electricity and information. It's a resistor. It's a capacitor. It is a photon emitter. Every cell emits and receives photons, which are light, which is information. So we're constantly broadcasting information on a subconscious level. We probably don't even know what we're saying to the world around us. We pick up on this as individuals. I'm picking up on your vibes. You're picking up on mine. There's a photon exchange that is happening there, an information exchange. So the science is revealing the nuts and bolts of how things work. Science is only about 300 years old. It began about the time when Isaac Newton formalized the laws of physics. For 5,000 years, our indigenous ancestors, they focused on applying what they understood in their lives. So we've got now the opportunity in this generation. We stand on the shoulders of 5,000 years of our most ancient and cherished spiritual traditions, giving us the tools and the science of 300 years now, telling us what those tools do, the effects that they can have. We're the only form of life we know of today with the ability to self-regulate all of those functions. What that means is we're the only form of life that can sit down in a chair like this in a moment in time, on demand, at will, and say, in this moment, I choose to create a strong immune response. Who doesn't want that in this day and age? I choose to awaken my longevity enzymes. And if you do that, it's not just about living longer. If you're living longer, it means you're healing all along the way, and you're healing on really, really deep levels. So we're talking at the molecular genetic level, not necessarily to change what's happening out there, but to change how we respond. So the ability to self-regulate our own biology is a big part of our divinity for our own immune response and longevity enzymes and resilience and all the other things, super memory, super cognition, super learning, all these things that are available to us. It all begins in the human heart. And this is where the action is. So I wanted to preface what I'm about to say with that. 1991, scientists made a discovery that shocked the medical community for sure, and the scientific community in general. What they found was a neural network inside the human heart. They found about 40,000 specialized cells. They're called sensory neurites. They're like neurons, brain, but they're not in the brain. They're in the heart. They think independently of the human brain. They feel independently of the human brain. They sense, they remember independently of the human brain. So right there, we all have had trauma in our lives, every one of us. But our trauma is perceived differently through the filters of our life experience. So your trauma might have devastated you when you were 3 years old, and then you tell me about it, and I'll say, what's the big deal, Or my trauma, my father left our home when I was 10, and it traumatized me because it said something about safety in the world and not feeling safe. I still deal with that. I'm still healing that. And I might say it to you, and you would say, what's the big deal? My dad left, and hey, piece of cake. The point is our trauma is individualized, it's personalized, it's unique, but every one of us has it. When we have trauma, it's registered in multiple places. And if you attempt to heal that trauma only through thinking and talking about it from the mind, it can help. And I think it's a good thing to do. But many people say, wow, I've done that and I feel incomplete. Now we know why. Because the talking or the therapies may not have addressed the thinking and the memory independent in the heart. The heart has a very different language. It doesn't always work with the words. Here's what the new discoveries are showing now. The brain is the master organ. That's what we were taught. But the brain receives the instructions that tell it what to do from the heart. The heart sends those instructions based on the way we feel about the world around us. And those perceptions are all through the filters of our experience. So all of a sudden, the heart becomes front and center because we now know the heart is telling the brain how to regulate the body, number one. But number two, the heart, this neural network, is key in what we call heart intelligence. We talked about how memory, information, our divinity, our imagination, our creativity, our innovation, our intuition are all information in the field that we tune to, rather than that information actually residing in these cells, in these neurons. Scientists they've looked at the neurons and they're saying, where's the memory? Where's the memory? Well, the memory's not in the neurons. The neurons are the antenna. They are a soft antenna, a biological antenna that is in resonance. They tune based upon our feelings and our demands to build the antenna to tune to the place in the fields where millions of other people tune in as well. So all of a sudden, the heart takes on a whole new significance in the scientific world. It parallels our most ancient and cherished spiritual traditions, who've always said that the heart is the seat of the soul. As my brother Gary Zukov wrote a book, my spiritual brother Gary, that the heart is the seat of the soul. And one of the biggest mysteries, on a particular day in the womb of our mother, there's a clump of cells, and in the next instant, something happens, and the first heartbeat begins. If you ask our indigenous ancestors, when I was with the monks and the nuns in Tibet, when I'm with my Native American friends, when I'm with my Quechua friends or my Aymara friends in Lake Titicaca in Peru, the shamans in the Yucatan and the Maya traditions, they all say the same thing. The first beat of the heart is the moment that our soul comes into our bodies. Our soul is part of, but it's separate from, a part of us that is ageless, timeless. It is the divine that is in that field. It's when the resonance between the cells in the heart and that neural network come into phase with this part of the field. We're neurons. We're cell membranes. We are ion potentials moving across cell walls with the ability to self-regulate ourselves. We are so good at it that we take it for granted. One of the highest forms of mastery and one of the deepest places for our healing, we can harmonize the neural network in the brain and the neural network in the heart. Two separate organs become one powerful, potent system in what is called heart-brain coherence. And the ability to do it, it's very, very simple. There's an organization here in Northern California, the Institute of Heart Math. They are a pioneering research organization in the power of the human heart in unconventional ways beyond just being a pump. They've developed 3 very, very simple steps that allow us to harmonize the heart and the brain very easily based on the ancient and the indigenous traditions. It's a shift in focus, a shift in breath, and a shift in feeling. A shift in focus from the world out there into the heart, number 1. Number 2, slower breathing. When we exhale for a period of time longer than we inhale, we trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the relaxation response. So it doesn't make any difference what the times are. It's just that the release needs to be longer, the inhale. So if you're inhaling for a count of 4, and then you release for a count of 6. Something that simple. That's step number 2. And then step number 3 is, while the focus is in the heart, while we're breathing slower from our heart, to focus a feeling, and this is something no other form of life can do, is a feeling of gratitude. Many people will say, well, I'm waiting for something to be grateful for. Over 1,300 positive biochemical responses in the body from shifting from our mind into our heart, number 1, breathing slower, number 2, and feeling a positive feeling such as gratitude that works pretty much for everyone. Once we accomplish that coherence, that can be an end unto itself, or it can be the launch pad for deeper states of spiritual awakening and development and healing and health. Just from 3 minutes of that process, the immune system is strengthened, and scientific evidence shows this. The SIGA, first level immune response in the lining of the mouth, is strengthened more than many antibiotics can do. This is what the researchers found. We awaken the longevity enzymes. We trigger the healing of the telomeres. There's an enzyme called telomerase that is awakened from this process. We actually relieve stress on a molecular level. The deep truth of our existence is all about us loving ourselves and loving one another enough to witness, to look at the human body very, very differently.